Here we are on the third Sunday of Advent, the midpoint of the Advent season, with 2 more weeks left. It's also, we have the rose-colored candle, the Rejoice candle, the Gaudete Sunday candle. Advent is a season of hope and expectation. Our Mass text today say the words rejoice. The priest wears the rose-colored vestments. The Advent wreath is a little brighter today. And so we are called an Advent people, preparing for Christ's coming and recognizing the presence of God in our midst. On this third Sunday, it is a turning point, because our first Sunday, we heard about the second coming of Christ. And last Sunday, we heard about John the Baptist saying, "Prepare the way of the Lord." Advent joy is the joy of anticipation of the Messiah's coming, both the one remembering at Christmas time and the one at the Last Judgment. Both the first reading and the Gospel proclaim an alternative version of what our world can be like, the version of fulfillment, a time of rejoicing. We heard from Isaiah today, which we hear a lot about during our Advent season, that reading. It's a hope and expectation to the Jewish tradition, expecting that everything would be wonderful once the Messiah came. It said today, the deserts will bloom, the lame will walk and leap, the blind will see, the deaf hear, and the mute will speak. But once Jesus came, it still did not happen in what people expected it to happen. The readings also encourage the exiled Jews in Babylon to rejoice because God will liberate them and bring them back safely to Jerusalem. In the Gospel today, we hear that John is in prison. And even John seems a little doubtful who Jesus is, because he says, "Is Jesus the one who is to come?" His life was spent hearing the Messiah, telling people to reform their lives, that the Messiah was coming. But it wasn't even what John the Baptist expected Jesus to be. John asked his disciples to go and ask Jesus if he is the one who was to come. But instead of Jesus saying a yes or a no, he quotes from Isaiah, from that first reading today, where he says, towards the end of it, where he says, "The blind see, the crippled walk, the lame are cured, the deaf hear, and the dead are raised to life. And the poor have the good news preached to them." So really, Jesus is saying, yes, I am the Messiah that is to come. Jesus is encouraging John to rejoice by casting away his wrong expectations of the Messiah and accepting him as healing and preaching ministry, as a fulfillment of the promise of the prophetic Messiah that was to come, that Isaiah was talking about. In the second part of the Gospel, Matthew presents Jesus paying the highest compliment to John the Baptist as his herald, and giving special credit to the courage of John's conviction in his preaching, asking his listeners to rejoice in the greatness of John as its herald. Isn't that the question of our heart when we look elsewhere for our happiness, for meaning in our lives, and for salvation? Jesus is the one who has come to save us. How do we feel to recognize Jesus' presence in our lives each day? Our second reading ties things together for us by saying that we need to be patient. And James encourages the early Christians to rejoice and wait with patience, for the second coming of Jesus will come. James uses the example of the farmer and how he doesn't expect the harvest to come up overnight, but it takes time to work on the soil and to let the harvest come at its time. So must we wait and hope and work and be patient, for our time, we know, is not God's time. Our scriptures today say, rejoice. Jesus is our hope, the reason for the Advent season in our lives. We need to daily recognize his presence among us and show forth the joy of the Lord. So let's say to each other today, Gagate, rejoice, for the Lord is coming soon.